So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Gimbutas. I will be the host of today's webinar, Shaping Your Purpose. A couple of housekeeping notes. So again, as we go through this, please feel free to type in the chat box if you have any questions, if you're unable to hear me for any reason. We have Addie Moritz, our graduate assistant with us, who will be monitoring that. So again, if you have any questions throughout or any challenges, please let us know. So today, we will be talking about shaping your life purpose. And just as background, so this is part of a 3-part webinar series that we're doing this month focused around the theme of purpose. And last week, we had a chance to really learn more about what purpose is and briefly touched on how to discover your own purpose. So today, we're really going to dive in a little bit deeper on what actually you can do to understand what your life purpose is. And so I know that there are a good number of you who are with us today who were also attending last week, and then some newcomers. So I will also be giving a little bit of a background on what purpose is as well to bring us up to speed. I also wanted to make a note that I did send out ahead of time a handout for everybody to look at as we go through this. So this webinar is very interactive. It's going to actually be primarily driven by yourselves. So we will be walking through a series of guided activities, and I just ask that you follow along with that handout. So if you did not have a chance to check your email and download that document, please take a moment to do that now. And if you're unable to print that document, you're also more than welcome to just pull the document up on your screen and follow along with a piece of paper. Okay, so a quick overview of what we'll be going over. So we are going to talk about what life purpose is and why it matters. We'll also talk a little bit about how to shape your purpose. So that's the bulk of the webinar today. And then also the importance of reflecting on how to live with purpose each day. So what actually is purpose? I want you to kind of think for a moment, when you think of life purpose, what comes to mind, and see if it matches up with some of the ideas on what purpose is. So first and foremost, life purpose is really the why behind what we do each day. And I want to emphasize the why but behind the what, because a lot of times you might think that our purpose is what we do. So for example, if you are a nurse, that is what you do, but the why behind that job might be deeper. So for example, a nurse might really have that deeper meaning of helping people or for caring for other people. So that's really that why. And so ultimately, understanding that why helps to motivate us to do what matters most each day. So when we are our best selves, we can do what matters most to us. And when we know why we are doing the things that we're doing, it really makes it easier for us to focus on what is most important. I also want to talk about passion and purpose. So a lot of times when we think about purpose, we also immediately think about passion and how they're similar. So you might be very passionate about art, for example. And while art may be a passion for you, that's really something that brings you joy, your purpose does not necessarily have to relate to your passions. So for most people, your passions and your purpose might differ, but there can also be that overlap. So keep that in mind as you're going through these exercises, that what you're passionate about does not necessarily have to be the driving force behind what you're doing each day. Your purpose can also and will also likely change over time. So as you grow older, you change jobs, you start a family, what is most meaningful to you is going to look different. So if you just think back to maybe when you were in high school or even when you were in college, what was the most meaningful thing for you then compared to what might be the most meaningful thing for you now? So that will have likely changed over time. We also have more than one purpose. So when you think of what is my life purpose, what does that look like? What is that? What is that one thing that I should be focusing on? Look beyond that, because there are a lot of important things in our lives that motivate us, that really have that deeper meaning. And you can have a lot of things that are important to you. And what your purpose looks like is going to be different for every single person. And so today, really focus ultimately on yourself. This is an opportunity for you to be kind of selfish in thinking about what is that brings you meaning and what can you contribute to the world. So why does any of this matter to begin with? Why is this going to be worthwhile for you to go through all of these activities today? And why is it meaningful for you to be on this webinar? So a few things. There's lots of research on the value and the benefits of purpose, and I'm just going to list a couple of them. So knowing your purpose, so just being aware of that, and then also living out your purpose provides you with a sense of meaning and fulfillment. It also helps you to focus on what matters most. So again, if you understand what it is that is meaningful to you, it really helps you to create more space in your life to focus on those things. By doing that, research tells us that when we know and live out our purpose, it helps to improve life and job satisfaction. It increases feelings of happiness because we are connected to this deeper level of fulfillment. It also enhances our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves. When we feel like we have things to contribute to the world, it helps us to feel good. All of these together also helps to reduce feelings of stress and anxiety. So when we think about the things that stress us out or the things that we're anxious about, a lot of times it is around things that we don't have much control over. But when we know that all of these things that might be stressful for us are really helping us to ultimately live out our purpose, it makes it easier to get through them. And so that helps to increase our resiliency. So when we experience challenging things in life, it allows us to be more likely to bounce back from those challenges quicker. So how do you shape your life purpose? So the topic of today's webinar is shaping your life purpose. So what does it actually look like? So today, we are going to spend a little bit of time where you are going to get to know yourself on a much deeper level. So some of the questions and these activities that we're going through, you may have asked yourself these questions before. Truthfully, I don't think you can ask yourself questions enough to really understand who you are. So you'll be doing that today. You'll also take time to reflect on your findings. So what is it that you are discovering about yourself? What can you do with that information? You'll then take all of that and you're going to write a purpose statement. So you have all of this knowledge about yourself. You reflected on those findings, but what can you do with that? What are a couple of sentences that you can write down that really captures the essence of the depth of yourself and also what is most important to you? And taking that statement, you're then able to put that purpose into action. And so this is a process that you'll do today, but we'll talk about how it's really important and how you can actually continue to check in with your purpose throughout your entire life. So we're going to go through a series of activities based on what I call intrinsic stepping stones to life purpose. So when you think about purpose, there has to be a way that we really understand what that is and how to actually live with purpose each day. So the intrinsic piece, I really want to emphasize because it's intrinsic motivation that is a significant driving force for purpose. So when you are living in a way that comes from within yourself versus living in a way that the world tells you that you should be living, you're more likely to be happier. You're more likely to be able to handle stressful situations. That's really where the purpose comes together. It's your why, not everybody else's why. So again, remember, purpose is what gives you meaning. It's not driven by what society holds up as those current standards. So your answers to these questions are really going to help you to better understand yourself, what makes you feel good, what you can contribute to the world, and why you do these things. And collectively, your responses will really help you to shape and understand your purpose. So the first activity that we'll go through is activity 1, your best self. So on your activity packet, whether you have it printed out or you have it up on your screen with a separate piece of paper, on the first page, we're gonna go through activity 1. So just a little background. The answer to the question, when are you at your best? Why does that matter? Well, first, your best self is connected to your purpose. So for example, when you are at your best self, think about kind of how you are when you're feeling your best. That helps you to live out your purpose. And when you're living out your purpose, that helps you to be your best self. So they really kind of work with one another. So that awareness of your best self will remind you how important it is to live with purpose each day. The more that we know about ourselves, the more that we can make those better decisions. So on your handout, there's a space for you to pick 2 words to describe how you are when you're at your best. And I know there's a lot up here. If there's something that doesn't call to you, you can always write down something that speaks to you. But I really challenge you to think about 2. So my example is, when I'm at my best self, I am balanced and I am mindful. When I'm balanced, that means I'm balancing my work tasks, self-care, doing the things that I enjoy, spending time with friends and family. But in order for me to do that, I need to be mindful. I need to be present. And so when I'm doing those things, I really feel good and I'm able to live more purposefully. So take a moment to just go ahead and write down 2 words. All right, so we are going to proceed to the next activity. As we move away from this one, again, just hold on to these 2 words to really recall the importance of caring for yourself and living with purpose. So the second activity is, what matters most to you? So what matters most to you? Why is this question important to think about? So first, different things matter to different people. So remember, this webinar right now is all about you, right? All about what is meaningful to you, what you value, what is important for you. And every single one of us is going to place value on other things. So you're going to think about what is most important to you, regardless of what other people prioritize. So go with your gut throughout this. So on your activity handout, on activity 2, we're going to spend a couple of minutes going through this. So I'll give you about 3 minutes to go through this activity. So the first part is, you are going to identify your core values. So these are really those things that are fundamental beliefs within yourself. So on your sheet, take a moment, about a minute, to just place a check mark next to 20 core values that you feel are most important to a life well lived. So again, just place a check mark next to 20 of them, and feel free to write in any additional values that you might have that are not listed here. Okay, so after you've checked off 20 of those values, I want you to circle 10 from your 20 that you feel are critical to a life well lived. So if you had to only pick 10 of them, what would those be? And from that list, you're going to narrow it down one more time. I want you to choose 5 from those 10 that are the most important to you. So we will call these your top 5 values. Keep in mind, it doesn't mean you're letting go of those other important values, but it's what I want you to really think about are the most important to you. And you're going to write those 5 values on the second page of your handout where it says my top 5 values. And you'll notice as we go through these activities that there are different reflection questions. So these are opportunities for you to really dig deeper beneath what you're writing down. So for example, on your My Top 5 Values chart, there's a space for you to put, this is important to me because blank. So let's say you value health, for example. Why is health a value to you? What about that is important? What about that makes it critical to your life, to your living? So I want you to think about really how you can dig deeper for each of those values. So I'll give you another minute to just kind of ponder those 5 values and think about why they are important to you. All right. So when we are wrapped up with the Wellinar today, I want you to also consider the post-Wellinar reflection. So I have some questions there for you underneath that table that says, what would life be like without these values? How would you feel? And what actions are necessary for you to live out these values? Feel free to answer those questions. If for each activity you finish ahead of time, you're more than welcome to answer those. But those are really more for you to reflect on after the Wellinar today. I also want to draw attention to this quote I like. So it says, things which matter most should never be at the mercy of things which matter least. And so I like that because it really reminds us that we should not be letting go of those things that are most important to us for the things that just really do not matter in our life. So by drawing in, thinking about your values, it helps you to make sure that you are focusing on what matters most. The next activity, the next stepping stone to help us to understand our purpose is to think about what really motivates and inspires you. So kind of the question of what inspires you to get out of bed in the morning. So this matters because it brings awareness to the things that we look forward to doing and experiencing each day. So really, what are those things that make us smile? What brings us joy? What do we really look forward to? And by thinking of these, it helps to cultivate a gratitude mindset. So when we think about the things that we are really looking forward to, those are stuff that makes us happy and feel good. And by reflecting on that, it can help us to remember what it is that we really want to experience each day. So for this activity, you're going to write down some things that motivate and inspire you to get your day started. So some examples that I thought of were my work. So being able to help other people, and I do that a lot through my work, just like being on this call right now. Spending time with my dog. So one of the first things that I do when I wake up is I let my dog out of his crate, and it's just one of those moments that really makes me smile and lights up my day. And being outside in nature, to be able to look at trees and spend time with my friends and family, those are really motivating to me. So reflect on those as well. How do you feel when you're able to experience those things? And again, if you finish before we move on, feel free to respond to those post-Wellinar questions. So on your handout, under Activity 3 on the left, just jot down some things that really motivate or inspire you to get out of bed in the morning, to get your day started, and then how you feel when you actually do experience that. Right. So again, as you go through this, as you pick the things that inspire you, that motivate you, think deeply about why. What about that is inspirational, is motivating? Okay. So kind of just take a moment to reflect on what you just wrote down. Take a look at the things that are motivational, inspirational to you in the morning. Also at the top of that page, take a look at those values that you wrote down. What are those things that are important to you? So we are going to move on to activity 4 and 5 on gifts, talents, and impact. So again, these are more stepping stones to really help us to live with purpose, to understand our purpose each day. So beginning with gifts and talents. Why does this matter? Why does it matter to think about what your gifts and talents are? So by thinking about this question, what your answers are, it's going to help you identify what you're great at. So what are those skills, those abilities that you are good at? What are you able to offer others? So a lot of times our gifts and our talents, most of the time actually, our gifts and talents help other people in some way. And that could be something that is really small. So maybe you are somebody who is great at telling jokes and making somebody laugh, or maybe you are really kind and you pay attention to people and you just smile and say hello to somebody in the hallway. And those little things, that is a gift, that's a talent, that's something that you do that can really impact the world. So again, these help us to build self-efficacy, to recognize what we're good at, makes us feel good, to enhance our self-esteem, our self-confidence. And a lot of times we kind of take these gifts and talents for granted, and we just kind of think that, oh, it's nothing special. But each one of you listening right now, you have so many different gifts and talents that you can offer, and this is an opportunity for you to really reflect on that. So during this activity, you're going to think about those gifts and talents that you carry with you each day. So that could be gifts and talents that you might carry at home, at work, just kind of walking out and about on the street, maybe while you're driving, any little thing or big thing that you can think of. There is no right or wrong answer here. It's really whatever comes to your mind. So just some examples for frame of reference. Maybe you're good at problem solving or caring for your family, public speaking, being creative, mentoring, being kind, making people smile, helping others. So there are lots of different ways that you can think of in regards to your gifts and talents. So on activity 4, write them down on the left side of the table. And if you finish, before we move on, take a moment to respond to those post-Wellinar reflections. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do this activity. Also, as you're going through this, one thing to think about is, I'm guilty of this, where sometimes I think about, okay, well, what are my gifts and talents? And I think, well, that's not a big deal, so that's not really a gift or a talent. But again, any little thing that you can think of that changes something in some way for the positive, that is a gift and that's a talent. So don't be hard on yourself and say, oh, well, I don't have this, so this isn't a talent or a gift, because you have many of them, and it just takes a little bit of work to dig them up. And so, again, those reflection questions that you'll go into afterwards, or maybe you've gone into them a little bit already, are really thinking about this on a deeper level. So how do you feel when you're able to use each of these gifts and talents? So again, as an example, one of my gifts or things that I enjoy providing is helping people or teaching. And I feel just so fulfilled when I'm able to do those things. So really kind of connecting it to a bigger scale. And then also asking yourself, are those gifts and talents aligned with your values? Because you'll start to kind of really see how everything threads together. So is what you're gifted at or talented at, is it connected to your values? Does it give you the opportunity to actually do what you value most? The next part of this activity on the same sheet is, what do you want to have an impact on? So why does this question matter? So this question matters because it's going to give you deeper meaning to your gifts and talents. It's going to really help you to understand, what is it that this gift and talent can help me offer the world? So again, that pulls out the why. Why am I doing this? Why am I helping people? So if you're good at something, if you have a skill, a talent, a gift, an ability to do something, what are you going to use that for? So going back to that example of somebody who is a nurse, right? They might have a gift of being empathetic, compassionate, to be able to help people. A gift of being able to do things that might not be so pretty, like handling blood. That might be a gift and talent in itself. So all of those things kind of come together of the why. Why are you doing something? So on your sheet, review your gifts and talents that you wrote down. And for each of them, consider the impact that it has on the people around you and the world as a whole. So think small scale, think big scale. So just some examples there. So if you're good at caring for your family, right? Maybe you're caring for your family so they can live a healthy and fulfilling life. That really digs deeper to that meaning. Or maybe you're good at public speaking and teaching. So you use public speaking and teaching to educate others on an important topic. Or you mentor others to help them do well in their career. So think about those gifts and talents and how you want to use them to have a positive impact on the people around you. Okay, so hopefully by now you have a little bit of a deeper understanding about how you can use the things that you are good at to really have an impact on the world. And again, those things are really going to connect you to that why and your purpose. So bringing this all together, we are going to pull all of these pieces together to really shape your purpose. So before I move forward, I want you all to just take a moment and flip back through your worksheet. And I do apologize if everybody did not have a chance to go through everything in as much depth as they needed. This is a new challenge for me to go through an activity without seeing everybody's progress. So I'm happy to walk through this with anybody else after the call if you have questions, or go back to it. But take just a minute to go through and just reflect. What is it that you are when you are at your best self? What were those 2 words that you used to describe yourself? What are those 5 things that you really value the most, and why? What motivates and inspires you? What are you good at? And what impact do you want to have? So just take a moment to think that through. Okay, so there's a reason that I had you reflect on that. So this, ultimately, all this information will help you to reflect on, well, what is your life purpose? What is your why? So the answer to this question matters because it really threads those stepping stones together. So all of those questions that you asked yourself, it helps you really to focus on what is most meaningful to you. So when you're at your best self, when you have those things that you value, when you take your gifts and talents and you use them in such a way that you really enjoy or that you want to use them for, that all comes together to really help you to understand your purpose. And so I want you to reflect on all of that and craft your life purpose statement. So on the last sheet of your packet, it says, right now, my purpose in life is. And you're going to write down 3 to 4 statements of things that will bring your life meaning each day. So what are you doing? Who are you with? What is that impact that you're having? And don't feel pressured to, make this the most elaborate statement. Just really take some ideas of themes that you had. So here are some examples of potential purpose statements. So right now, my purpose in life is to give back by mentoring and assisting others in my community, to help make this world a better, kinder, more equitable place, to be a loving and supportive parent to my children, to be a leader in my field, or to make a positive difference in as many people's lives as I can. So that pulls together your values, your reasons why, your gifts, your talents, and the impact you want to have. So take a moment to write that down and then reflect on the questions below that box. And after you write down some of those statements, I want you to think about what you can do to live more purposefully today. So looking at those statements, thinking about what is it that you can do today to live more purposefully based on those statements that you wrote. And then also consider what will help you accomplish that. What do you need to put in place to make that happen? Okay. So again, you may not have been able to go through all of those questions as in depth as you might have needed. So I will send out the PowerPoint slides so you can walk through that again, or you can always feel free to email me if you have questions. But before we wrap up, I want you to just kind of think of, again, that what is that one thing you can do today to live more purposefully? And that is one of those takeaways that I want you to carry with you today is what is your purpose and what is one thing you can do today to live more purposefully? And then also think about how will you live out your purpose on a daily basis? So after today goes away, what can you do tomorrow and the next day and the next day to really stay connected to your purpose? So maybe that means you want to print out your purpose statement and put it somewhere that you can see it every day, and make a plan to check in with yourself and check in on your values and your gifts and your talents, and really understand what motivates you, what you're grateful for. Because all of those things, again, come together to help you shape that purpose and ultimately help you to be your best self, to live out the way that you wrote on the first activity of how you are when you're at your best self. And then for those of you for the Wellinar series, next week, we're going to be talking more in depth about exactly some ideas on how you can live with more purpose each day. So living with more meaning, really just making sure that you are doing things each day that meet your your purpose statement, and then also finding those hidden meanings. So where can you find meaning in things that really aren't, the most exciting or things that are stressful for you? And so we'll talk about that. Any questions? If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box, or you can just email them to me directly.